Hey crafty people, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. Over the years I've dabbled in most types of crafting, although for the past decade or so I've been doing primarily card making and mixed media art. I've recently embarked on a junk journaling journey that I hope you'll join me on. Okay, so we are gonna make some Christmas postcards, or faux postcards. Now in the US, to get a first class postcard stamp rate, your postcard needs to be at least 3.5 by 5 inches and cannot be bigger than 6 by 4 1/4. So I was originally thinking I was going to do them all at 3.5 by 5, but I cut my first piece of paper down and decided it's a little smaller than I want to play with. So we'll do the 4 that I cut and make those into a faux postcards. And then the rest of them I cut at 5.5 by 4 1/4. Although because this is coffee dyed paper, it gets a little wonky. So some of these pieces are a little wonky, but that's okay. And then I cut some white cardstock so that we can do some of those. So to start off with, what we're gonna do, I've also pulled out a variety of stamps and fussy cuts from digital kits, and I've got some washi sticker. I've also got some 49 and Market, sorry about the glare with the misty, 49 and Market rub-ons and washi stamps, and some of my digitals are faux stamps. So we've got faux stamps to put on our postcards. And what I want to start by doing is prepping them so that they are postcards. So I've got a couple stamp sets that have the words postcard. This is a Tim Holtz. It's one of the like mini stamp sets that comes with a stencil, and I don't know the name of this one, but it's got postcard. And then I've got Noisy Dogs, 2 Creative Expressions stamp sets. One is Dates from the Past, that's CEC959, and Butterfly Walk, which is CEC957, and they both have postcard stamps on it. So I've pulled out the ones from Dates from the Past, so we're going to use that on our 5.5 or 5 by 3.5 postcards, and I've set it up in my MISTI so that I can go ahead and just keep stamping it in the same spot on each of the postcards and just swap them out. And for this, I'm going to use VersaFine Black. We're going to go with black for this one. Black. Actually, let's try the Smoky Gray and see how we like that. I've got VersaFine Smoky Gray, which may be dried up. It's been a while since I've used it. Let's see. Oh, no, there's definitely ink in there. Ooh, I kind of like the Smoky Gray. I think I'm going to stamp it one more time just to make sure it's fully stamped on there. Now, on most postcards, there's also a line that kind of goes down the center to divide where you write your message from where you write the address. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an acrylic block and just ink the edge of it and use that to create my line. Did not quite work how I was hoping it was going to work. All right, we're going to try this again. I'm going to try using a pen just to create the line down the center. And what we're going to do is put a faux stamp up there. And let's go ahead and do the rest of these. Now I'm going to switch to my bigger size piece. What we'll do is do all of the lines at one time and kind of assembly line this. And I think for this one, I'm going to use the postcard from Creative Expressions, the butterfly walk one because it is bigger and scales better for this than for the smaller guy. So just gonna kind of line that up in the center. I think for this, I'm gonna do a bunch using Vintage Sepia by VersaFine. And then I'm going to use the Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous postcard for the last batch. And I'm going to stamp that one with VersaFine in Onyx Black. All right, now we're gonna draw our lines. So I'm just using the grids on my Misty to line everything up. And I've grabbed a Copic multi-liner. And just gonna draw lines. Well, that brown's a little darker than our stamping, but this is the only brown I have. So, and this is Recollections chocolate felt tip pen. So I tried filming decorating the postcards yesterday, but my dogs decided to go crazy barking at each other every time I put the camera on. I had given them a bath, and so they were little crazy dogs afterwards. So I ended up giving up, and I did do a couple of them decorating a few of those. So I'll show you what I've done, and then I've got some to decorate on camera that I pulled stuff out for. Now, what I was trying to say, and the dogs kept interrupting me, is that there's two ways you can decorate these postcards. A lot of digitals I've seen will have faux postcards as part of the digital, and what they'll have is the postcard side, faux stamp stuff, an addressy, scripty kind of bit here, and then like a focal image on this side. And then you print that out and you leave the other side blank or decorate it yourself, but it can then be a journaling card where the entire back side is for journaling. But if we're trying to create faux postcards, that's not what a postcard really looks like, is it? Postcard has all of the decoration on the back, and then this side is meant for your message that you're going to write to the person you're sending it to, and then their address and a stamp. So we're going to do some decorated DigiKit style, where we decorate this side and leave this side blank for journaling. And we're going to do some where we put minimal decoration on this side and decorate the back up. So I've got a couple that I've done so far like that. And these two, I use, this is 49 and Market digital, not digitals, rub-ons that I put on there. That's a 49 and Market washi stamp. This is actually a set of full-size pages by Watercolor Lily that I printed 35 to a page to get the small faux stamp size and just cut out with my Fiskar postal scissors. And then I used a bunch of stamps from Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous, and also Darkroom Door rubber stamps. It's the Merry Mail, has some really great, like it's got my little cancellation stamp there. So those are how I did those, and I'm gonna leave this one completely blank on the back. This one was a little too plain and white, so I just did very light stenciling. And for this I actually used, I've got, these are by scrapbook.com, and they're brushes. I don't know if they're still available. I got these a few years ago, probably, but not 100% sure. And I got these before I discovered the makeup brushes. And what I found with these is it gives you a very light coloring. So it took me way longer to stencil with these and get the color I wanted most of the time than it does with these brushes. But if you want something very light that's easy to write over so that it can be used as a journaling card, these are great. It was one of those, I'm like, oh, I have those brushes, let me use them. And then I did a couple where I decorated the back full on. This is a stamp by Inkadinkado, and it's a really old stamp. In fact, it's one I haven't even taken off the wood block, and it didn't stamp great. My intention wasn't to color this in, but it didn't stamp very well, so I figured, especially like the bird wing was a little off and that star. So I pulled out my Distress inks and used those to watercolor, and then inked around the edges. And I found that I liked how it looked a lot better after doing that than just stamping it. Only problem is a couple spots I got a little heavy-handed and it bled through. So I'm probably going to cover this with another piece of coffee dyed paper and redo the postcard and the little line down the center and add a stamp to that when I've finished. And then these are also, I believe, Inkadinkado stamps. Nope, they are by Stampendous, and they are really old stamps. Had them forever. And for stamping them, I pulled out, I don't know how well the gold one's showing up on screen, my Brilliance Dewdrop stamp pads, which are supposed to give a little sparkle, and the red's really not sparkling very much. The green, the pad was literally falling apart as I was using it because these guys are so old. But as part of my quest to use some of my old stuff that I've been neglecting in recent years, I pulled those out. The little sparkly bits around the side and the sentiment are Tim Holtz stamps, and they are from the sparkles from Vintage Holiday CMS 423. As is the sentiment? I think, no, the sentiment's from Jolly Holiday CMS 474. That's what I did for that one. And then on this side, I used, this is that's a Digital Fable faux stamp. And then I embellished with some actual stamping. So that's what we're gonna do for the rest of our postcards. And okay, so I have pulled out digitals for decorating some of our faux postcards. And so we're just gonna get started. So this is a digital by Rach and Bella Crafts. I don't know if you've seen her new Christmas digital, but it is too stinking cute. I will leave a link for it down below. And I believe it's currently on sale. And I'm just adding a little vintage photo around the edges. And I figured he would go on like that. I want to put a little bit of book page. So this is a copy of the Christmas Carol that I picked up and am pulling apart, and I dyed this using Brushos to create a nice red. we'll use a piece of this. I'm gonna just take the side strip off and then tear a piece to go, and actually let's take the top off as well so we don't have a bunch of blank space. And we're just gonna and of course I apparently pulled out from the back because I'm pretty sure this is the section talking about Scrooge being dead. Well, we'll just put our mouse so that he covers that bit. And then he of course needs something to stand on, so I'm gonna grab some washi, and I picked this up at Michael's. And I think I'm actually gonna add a little Lumberjack Plaid to the edges of this just to add even more interest to it. I want to put the washi down first so that I can have the mouse standing on it. Just to make sure it stays, I'm going to put a little glue down. Definitely need to pick up a glue stick for using with the washi so that I can just run it along a glue stick to make sure it stays. All right, so he's going to stand right there on the little bit of washi. Let's so much, he is so cute. All right, so turning over our postcard, we're gonna do a little decorating on this side, and this is by, let me ink and try and think of who this one is from. Give me a sec. I will pull out my booklet and tell you. This one's Calicocollage. As always, I will leave a link and a list of the digitals down below. So we're gonna just stick that on and do a little bit of stamping, just a little bit to add a little bit more interest. I'm gonna take, this is from the Darkroom Door, it's a cancellation stamp. Do a little vintage photo and just do that. And then I'm also gonna grab another Darkroom Door stamp, and I'm gonna do this in green and try and do it right side up. So it gives the look of cancellation. And then along the bottom, I'm gonna use, this is Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous from, give me a sec and I'll tell you. It is from Correspondence CMS 225. And then I'm gonna add one more stamp to this. This is a Tim Holtz stamp. And let's do it in, we'll go with red. Just, it says Santa Claus Post Office. So just add a little bit of interest on this side, and then we have our main interest, and there's still plenty of space on this side to journal. So this is one of the ones on white cardstock, and so I've got some digitals. This is Digital Attic Studio. This is Saturday Stamper, Operation Bellacraft, and the Junk Journal Studio. So this is what I've grabbed for this page. And I actually think I want to add a little bit of interest to the background before we start gluing stuff down. So I've got, this is the new Winter Sprigs background stencil by Fawn. And it's a layered stencil, but I think we're just going to use the greenery for this one. And I'm going to use the brush again because I don't want it very dark. And we're going to go with Rustic Wilderness. I am going to put down a piece of paper so that I don't have to worry about getting it on my mat and then having to clean the mat. Now what I like with these brushes for this project is the fact that I'm not going to get a very dark, you know, it's going to be kind of a fuzzy atmospheric effect instead of like crisp stenciling. And I'm okay with that because I don't need a crisp background. I'm just trying to add a little interest. So see, it's kind of fuzzy and just giving a little bit of interest to the background so it's not completely plain, but not really taking over because I don't want it to be the main focus. So I am going to ink edges. Now, you don't have to. Main reason why I ink edges is, as you can see, ooh, I bumped the camera. Sorry for that being kind of cockeyed. As you might be able to see, I didn't cut this perfectly straight. I put ink on the edges. That's going to mostly disappear, and I don't have to worry about the fact that I didn't cut it perfectly straight. So that's one of the main reasons why I ink my edges, is because it covers up any imperfections in my cutting. As I've said before, distress inks will cover a multitude of sins. I'm going to actually ink the edges of this using a green instead of brown. So yeah, you don't always have to use like a vintage photo or tea dye or whatever your preferred brown is to ink your edges. So for that one, I pulled out the green. And since it's a well-used dauber, I didn't even have to put any ink on it. It had enough on it already. Stick that there. And then we're gonna do pretty much, ooh, I got smoosh on that side. Let's see if I can erase that. I cannot. I don't know what the heck I got on there. But I think what we're gonna do to solve that problem, I'm gonna pull out my antique linen and a brush, and I'm gonna ink it up. And then what we will do is add our stamp. Actually go with green for our cancellation this time. Do it kind of down here because I don't want it on the cutie's face. So we've got the cancellation stamp. Then we will stamp, just making sure I have it right set up. I'm going to use the Lumberjack Plaid to do that stamp right there. And we're going to solve this by stamping that upside down. Dagnabbit. Okay, let's see if I can find, got some little labels. Okay, this is what we're going to use. I feel like this is probably an Artie Maze or I think it's Artie Maze. I'm not 100% sure. This was stuff I did at Christmas in July, so I'll have to go back and double check. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a brush, fill in the full thing in green over here so that if any of the lettering sticks out, it's going to be less noticeable. And we're just going to cover our missed stamped with that. And there we go. Boy, I'm just getting stuff everywhere on this one. This one is not a happy postcard. I do want to ink around these edges, and I think we'll go green. Do this side as well. All right, so for this next one, it's a white one, and I'm gonna do some stamping on it. But what I want to do is I want to have a white border. I'm gonna ink a background, and then I want to have a white border going around, but I want it to have a decal edge to it. So I've got, this is masking paper, and so it's a very low tack tape on the one side, and I use the decal blade on my paper trimmer, and I keep dropping these on the floor so they're getting covered with dog hair, which is why we're going to do this now. And I'm just going to lay it down to mask off a little decal-y border. Oops. And this is definitely me being extra. Like, this is one of those, because you could very easily, if you have a decal trimmer, cut out a piece and just stick it on to get this same effect. You don't have to do the masking. If you don't have masking paper, you could try cutting washi tape with a decal edge trimmer if you have one, or you could just tear pieces to get strips like this, or just use strips of paper that you cut and tack down to get this if you don't have masking paper. I am gonna pull out some blues, and I'm gonna start light because it's easier to get darker, and I want to do a blue sky background is what we're gonna ultimately be getting for like a night sky, but I want to start light to dark and build up my color. So the first color I'm putting on, I probably should have said, is Distress Ink Tumbled Glass. Now I'm going to pull in some Broken China. And I think I want to keep my center lighter and my edges darker, because I think the way I want to go with this. I'm going to pull in a little Uncharted Mariner. And now I'm pulling in Chipped Sapphire, which is going to be my darkest blue. And I'm going to come back with Uncharted Mariner and soften around here a little bit. Blend those two together. I really need to remember that this one's very juicy and that I need to start off the page before going to the page, because that's what's getting the clumpy bits. Now I'm going to pull in one more color, which is Villainous Potion, because I think adding a little purple on the edge tends to really get your night sky nice and dark and night sky-y. And I'm going to pull back in our chip sapphire just to blend with the purple. And I'm going to pull in my lightest color again just to smooth things out and blend some more. And just get that blended in nice and smooth. And there we go. That's going to be our backdrop. And I am going to stamp. I'm a sucker for Tim Holtz, so I ended up picking up the new Winter Woodlands CMS 476. But really, you can use any kind of Christmas tree to get this effect. And I'm going to grab my Misty to make sure we get a good finish. And I'm leaving it on here with the tape because I don't want the tree going over the line. So I'm just going to fold this paper back so that it will fit in the Misty. So I'm going to stamp that guy in the center, and since we did the lighter area in the center, it's going to give our stamped image like a little glow, should give it a glowing effect around it. So I'm going to use pine needles for this. And I think I'm actually going to add a sentiment up there because a lot of the Victorian like postcards tend to have sentiments. And I'm just trying to decide what I want to stamp it with. And I'm going to use my Hero Hues unicorn, which is really old. I've had it forever, but it is a decent white ink pad, so that should work. That needs to be stamped again. I think we're going to go one more time, and that should get us where I want it to be. There we go. That's what I love about the Misty, is you can keep stamping the same thing over and over again. All right, so we're gonna take this out. And I want to add some snow to it. And to add my snow, I'm gonna use some Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. And I'm just gonna add some water to this. Grab a paintbrush. Now you can use watered down gesso, watered down acrylic paint, whatever you have handy. I just got a thing of the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, so I'm gonna do that. I'm hopefully not gonna get white everywhere, but I'm gonna set this aside and let it dry before we pull off the tape and have the big reveal and work on the back. All right, so it's time for the big reveal. Which doesn't look as it's kind of hard to see because it's sitting on the white background of that, but there we go. So we've got the little decollage going on around the piece, and I really like how this turned out. And then flip over, and we've got to do just a little bit of stuff on the side. First, we need a faux stamp. Let's see if we can find a good one with a Christmas tree. That one's kind of good. I kind of like that one. Alright, so this is, as you can see, Digital Fable. We're gonna ink our edges. And we're gonna add our cancellation stamp. We're gonna go with green for that. That stamp. Barcode at the bottom in green. Gonna do Santa Claus Post Office. And we're gonna use red and stamp that down there. And then I think I just want to ink the edges, so we're gonna do that. And I am going to ink the edge a little bit, just a smidge. So that guy is done. Okay, for this one, we are going to decorate this side and leave this side mostly blank, although I'll probably do a little stenciling to cut back on how white it is. And I am going to stamp on this one. So let's put it in our Misty just to be on the safe side. And we're gonna go with this big jolly Santa Claus face. He's just gonna go like that. And we're gonna stamp him in red. I was listening to an audiobook earlier on, you know, the origins of Christmas traditions and things like that. And it seems as though the origin of Santa's red suit is from the Coca-Cola advertisement illustrations that started in the 30s. So Santa's red suit's probably because Coca-Cola's colors are red and white. We've got the Jolly Man himself on there. And we need a faux stamp for our corner. Oh, you know what? Let's go with this guy. Or do we like that one? Let's see. We've got that one. Or we've got that one. I think let's go with that one, just because it adds a little bit more contrast to the stamped image. This guy's a Citrus Journal Studio, and this is Shabby Babby Doodah. And since the edges of this are green, we're going to ink the edges with green. Now I'm going to take my scripty stamp and go a little scripty on here for the address part. And I'm also going to take this stamp, which is from the same stamp set as him, and it's a address via the North Pole. So we're going to add that on, and I'm going to use pine needles. That down there. We need to cancel our stamp. Again, I'm going to use pine needles. I think pretty much all my additional stamping I'm going to stick to not red, because there's so much red over here with our Santa Claus. So to kind of counterbalance that, we're going to stick with greens for the rest of our stamping. Lines for the bottom. And I think that's good. I am going to ink my edges, and I'm trying to decide if I want to do red or green. I think I'm going to do red. And I'm being aggressive in my inking because I'm also going to come back and just do brown around the very edge. So we've got a little more red going around, and now we'll come back in with Vintage Photo and do just the very tip. And then on the back, I just want to do some subtle stenciling so it's not so white. And I'm going to just use a Lawn Fawn 6x6 snowflakes. And you know what? We're going to go. It's a two-part stencil. So we're going to start with Rustic Wilderness. Should pull out my Wendy Vecke Make Art Station so that I can use the magnets to hold the stencil in place so that I'm less likely to have things shifting about on me, but I do not feel like dragging it out. So there we go. We've got some fuzzy snowflakes in green. The second part of the stencil, and it goes, so it should line up with that way. So there we go. We've got a nice little subtle background. So definitely something you can easily journal over, but not so plain white. And I will ink the edges. So ta-da, that guy's done. Okay, so I've got a couple more that I want to get assembled here. And I've pulled out a bunch of printables. Citrus Journal Studio, Rach and Bella Crafts, and I believe this is Calicocollage. I'm going to grab some antique linen to ink the edges of this guy and our little reindeer dude. But for this one, I'm going to use red, so Lumberjack Plaid, and I actually am going to snip the corners. And then I've got a piece of dyed book page, and I'm going to ink those edges with green, just to make the edges stand out a little bit. So that's going to go there. Our reindeer's going to go there. And he's going to stand on our Santa approved. So I'm going to grab my art glitter glue and assemble this guy. Okay, and that's going to go there and there. All right, so let's refilled my art glitter glue again, and I gotta remember that it's just been refilled and I don't need to press quite so hard, because yeah, when you get towards the end there's a lot more squeezing required to get the glue out, and so I need to adjust how much pressure I apply when gluing things. All right, so we are going to pull out our stamps and do the little stamping. That one's done. And for our last one, I want to add rub-on for this one and a little bit of stamping. Junk Journal Studio, Citrus Journal Studio. Let's go ahead and ink our edges. I think for both we're going to go with the brown. This stamp is from Vintage Holidays, and it's the little sparkly stamp. because this has got little like splatters on it. So I want to do some splattery stamping around on this, and I'm going to use Rustic Wilderness to go with the colors on our rub-on, but I don't want it full intensity, so I'm just gonna stamp it off and then stamp it on there. And I may add more after we add the rub-on and do all that, but I just figured let's get a little bit on there for the start. And that's gonna go on the bottom. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stick that down. I'm gonna trim this off so I can better see my placement. So he's gonna go there. And this guy's gonna go, we're gonna shift over so that that's on there. All right, so I'm gonna place this guy down. Lining it up so that the bell is where the blank spot is. Now I want a firmer surface, so let me grab my cutting mat and we're just gonna do the rub-on. So let's get that placed where we want it. I think we want it to go right there. And I'm gonna grab my Teflon bone folder and just rub this sucker on. Sorry that this is shaking the camera. All right, and so when you're doing rub-ons, just start peeling it up carefully. And if it's not stuck down, just go back and rub some more. There we go. I definitely want some splatter over here. Let's do that. I think I may do a little over there and there. And now one last thing I'm going to take. This is from, I think, the same stamp set. I'm not 100% sure. And we're going to stamp that in the corner. And I'm going to grab a mouse pad to make it easier to stamp. And we're just going to stamp this guy in Rustic Wilderness. There we go. Now, of course, on this side, we just need to do a little bit of stamping and add a stamp with stamp this at the bottom. Pull out a postage stamp. Let's go with that one, and let's buy Digital Fable. Ink our edges. All right, so that's our last faux postcard. Oh, I didn't ink the edges on either of those. I will do that off camera. So here are the two we just did. We also did this cutie, the faux postage stamp stuff on that side. This one, which we stenciled and did some stamping on that side. This one where we inked the background and stamped, and that's that side. And then this guy, which we did on camera and stenciled lightly on the back, so you can still use it as a journaling card. So that's that group. And then off camera, I actually decorated all the rest of them. Some of them I showed you already, I think, but we've got that one. which has a plain background for journaling cards. This one, this guy, that's an Inkadinkado stamp. That's a Watercolor Lily digital and Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous stamp. I believe that's an Artie Mays digital, Junk Journal Studio, and Rach and Bella Crafts, and that's a 49 in Market washi stamp. And I did stenciling on the back of that. I think I already showed you this one. And this one with the 49 in Market rub-on. And then I did this one, and this is an Artie Mays, and that's actually Artie Mays as well. And I did do the little holly branch stamp in the corner to add a little interest on that side. That's Digital Fable, Citrus Journal Studio for those two, and this is Poppy something something. I will leave it linked down below. Inkadinkado stamp that I use my Distress inks to watercolor, and that's a Saturday Stamper stamp, I believe. Blank on the back. I know I showed you this one because this is the one that bled through that I need to redo the back on. Vintage Studio 717 digital, no, Junk Journal Studio, and I can't remember right now which one this is from. I know a lot of, this is one of those images a lot of digital creators have licensed and put in kits, and I don't remember which kit this is from. It might be a Junk Journal Studio one. And then Rach and Bella, Citrus Journal Studio, and then that one's, I don't remember which of the faux stamp sets that's from. So there are all of our faux Christmas postcards. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.